corporate compliance. Not having your Secretary of State in good standings, guys. It's a very common one. You know, it could be as little as not filing your statement of information. One piece of document, right? There, you know, every year you have to pay an annual fee for your state. Every state's a little bit different, but that can put you into a not good stand. Now, this is an old one, of course, but I wanted to provide, you know, forfeited, terminated, suspended, or active. You want to be in the active state. All this needs to be in good standings, because you can get denied if any of these are not in good standings. All right, so the way to check is to go to your Google search. You can type in, you know, Florida, you know, Secretary of State in Florida business search. Type in your company name. Once you go into it, you're gonna do the business search. Type in your company name. You're gonna see something similar to what I just showed you, and that will help with understanding if you're in good standings. You know, a little pro tip here is that if you're adding a credit partner, part of the utilization hack, then it's recommended that you add them either as an officer to your corp. Doesn't mean that you have to give them ownership. You don't have to say I'm signing up the whole entire, you know, company. But again, having them as a credit partner, as an officer, like I could hire a CEO and give him zero equity in my company, but pay him a salary to run the company. Right? There's many ways. Doesn't mean just because you're a CEO doesn't mean you have to have ownership, you know, from that. There's ways around the whole thing. So having your Secretary of State updated will increase your chances if you're doing the credit partner hack. Does that make sense? All right, updating your business info. If you went from, as you know, your solopreneur, your home address, your cell phone, you need to update all information, your Secretary of State, your IRS, your bank statements, your business credit bureaus. Everything should match to be able to increase your chances of an approval if you had change in address, a phone number, website, emails, etc. Okay, so make sure that you do that because they all have to be in sync. Your corporate compliance, make sure that you're, you know, instead of keeping your company name as generic as possible, right? You want to use acronyms, you know, like Rad Enterprise, Delcap Ventures, Help Me Grow Group, right? Do not put investments, you know,
real estate, anything
real estate, properties, you know,
funding,
you're just shooting yourself. You're shooting yourself. Oh yeah, especially credit repair. It allows you to be flexible, so you know we can't predict the future.
All types of
OnlyFans, yeah, exactly. Look, guys, if you're in real estate at one point, you're like, no, I don't want to be in real estate anymore. I want to go and do, you know, Turo, or I want to do e-com, Amazon. Having a you know, Rad Enterprise allows you to be flexible in any type of, you know, category. You never know what's going to happen in the future. I mean, shit, I switched industries at least once or twice with keeping the same game. You know, and Axel Holdings literally is 10 years old. Don't register in these corporate industries, right? As we just mentioned, some of these investments, bail bonds, real estate, credit repair, protection, anything that's such. These are all certain ways of deal killers, you know, from that. But if you are in one of these high industry, you know, industries, there's a proper way of setting it up. Okay, so if you have your Airbnbs and your investments in real estate, you know, and you want to have LLCs for each one of those, or your Turos, or whatever category in your high industry, you want to be able to have separate LLCs that's going to be taking in the money from those, from whatever sources that is coming in. And then you want to be able to have that funnel through a compliant holdings company of some sort, right? ABC, Rad Enterprise, etc. And by having multiple deposits flowing through, depending on any lead sources that you're working with, can be the solution to work with your lender and get approved. Because the more deposits, the more revenue, business credit in a compliant fashion is going to help you increase your probability of success, right? Does that make sense? Does anybody have, you know, any questions on how this is all structured? Please stay back and I'll be able to you know, answer them later on. But again, there's a proper way of doing it if you're already in these type of industries, kind of like a Joe, right? Make sure you don't have that. All right. So, you know, the question is like, if it was your money, you know, how would you like, who would you like most likely lend to? right? The person on the left looks like he's, working at a skyscraper. He's a professional, or this person who's a solopreneur in his home, working with, in the basement, garage, etc. Right? And so the difference between how we look, right? This is the first time I would say is it's okay to catfish the banks in this category. So looking on the left, you have a professional email, address, 800 number, 411 registered. You have a professional, email, social media, local listings, do your content creation. You have a profile with Duns and Bradstreet, all the business bureaus, versus the one on the right, which is a high risk industry at Gmail, home address, no cell phone, website, social, right? If it was your money and you're like, is this person going to pay me back? Just a perception from the very beginning. This is the difference on what can work and not work in your elements. All right, financials, some of the mistakes that we look at. Number one, right, banks will lend about 10% of the annual gross sales. Merchant cash advancements will lend up to 20% of your gross sales. If you guys were here last week and the store with Marco, where he was actually, they over leveraged him and they gave him a lot more money, right? He made about, I think it was close to about $1 million. They gave about $250,000 in MCAs. And unfortunately, even though you have the credit and you're over leveraged, a big bank will not consolidate an MCA first to give you that money. So let's just say you paid off that MCA and he's going to be cash flowing $20, $30, $40,000 a month more versus paying those MCAs. Even though he has everything, the credit, everything, you would need to consolidate that first before moving forward. It's kind of a shitty rule, but that's the way it is. So you have to fix it. So here are some ways, some creative ways that we developed on how to fix that, to be able to get as many credit, business credit cards. You can tap into personal loans, having enough money to consolidate that. Tapping into credit partners and leveraging them with their credits or personal loans, right? A little mixture of all this, or ghost debt to raise enough capital to pay off those over leveraged loans. So it gets a little creative, a little more advanced. But again, I wanted to throw this out there because if you're in this position, don't think that you're stuck, right? There are solutions to every single challenge that we've ever dealt with, right? And we know how to solve them. For example, one of my clients that I was working with, Robert and Ann. So you can see this is a very common situation where if you get one MCA, you need to acquire a second one to pay for the first one, or a third one to pay for the second one. You're just training these MCAs. Well, this person making about $100,000 to $150,000 a year in his limo business called me up and he was like, "Listen, I think I'm about to go to bankruptcy, and I don't know what to do. I have all these MCAs. I'm over leveraged and I can't get out of this mess," right? Paying $13,000 a month, give or take, is a huge deal when you're not making enough money, when you're spending more than what you're bringing in. And so when I looked at his credit, he had a charge off, high inquiries, high utilization. We used the credit partner hack. His wife still had to optimize, remove the inquiries. Utilization was decent. We had to get rid of the authorized user that had the high utilization. So we first went with her, added her to the company, got her some personal loans and some business credit cards. Now that was enough capital to wipe out all of these MCAs. And so the credit hacking method that we utilized was able to get rid of the debt, put him back into a good standing, and then we use that to then get good debt with the 100,000 with the business line, able to reinvest back into his company, etc. So again, these were all certain things of a little more advanced, advanced loans. But again, if there's a will, there is a way.